Now we're going to talk about deregulation. It is, of course, one of President Trump's favorite words.
We're ending high prices with tax cuts, deregulation, and frankly, again, the words common sense. My first 4 years, we did more deregulation than any other president in history. The single largest deregulatory action in American history.
Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy wrote an op-ed about it. President Trump has signed executive orders about it. And last spring, he told federal agencies to fast-track it without normal notice and public comment periods.
So are they doing it? Bloomberg Law did an exclusive analysis and found the White House plan to cut through regulations has flopped. We asked Robert Iafolla of Bloomberg Law why.
The first Trump administration had some problems with this because federal law places a lot of requirements on what it takes to repeal a regulation. It's basically you have to go through a similar process as to create a regulation. So one of the shortcuts they were hoping to use was basically this exception to this law called the Administrative Procedure Act. And this is an exception that allows you to skip all of this burdensome rulemaking procedure. It's called the good cause exception. It's traditionally used in emergencies or to get rid of rules that are, just ticky-tacky and uncontroversial. So the administration came up with a plan to expand the use of this to say when an agency deems that a rule is illegal, particularly illegal under one of a list of 10 Supreme Court cases, then they could go ahead and dispense with that sort of laborious multi-year rulemaking process and just go ahead and wipe it out directly.
So that was the plan, and you had the administration kind of hammering that point home, directing agencies to do this. You have done an analysis of how much this has actually been put into effect, and what did you learn from doing that analysis?
Yeah, so when they rolled out this plan, this was early in 25. It was when DOJ was running all over the place. It seemed like the administration could do just about anything, no matter what the law said. And when I spoke to people then, there was a wonder about how this would actually land. But after a year plus since it was rolled out, what we found was that it was not widely adopted at all. It was essentially a non-starter with agencies. There were just a handful of examples. They were primarily clustered around anti-DEI moves where agencies cited the Supreme Court ruling from a few years ago in which the court basically got rid of race-based affirmative action in universities and used that as a justification for getting rid of some small programs that would advantage like minority-owned business and things like that. But the scale of the effort, a year plus ago to what the actual results are, there's a rather wide delta there.
And what does that tell you? Does it show that this wasn't effective, that there was concern about using this legal framework? What conclusions can we draw from how infrequently it has been used?
Yeah, so the White House didn't talk to me about this, but in talking to former government regulators and administrative law experts, the consensus was that this is evidence that agency lawyers, I should say, the general counsels at these different agencies sort of took a look at this and decided that it's not really tenable. There's not the amount of litigation that they would face and the prospect of losing just didn't justify using this shortcut.
I want to take a step back here lastly to go back to that idea that I brought up at the top, that is kind of reforming the regulatory landscape. Are there places where they have been more successful? I look at these kind of committees and commissions. I look at the SEC. It's not fully staffed with commissioners. It seems like aside from rules, they have been able to make inroads here in neutering the sort of regulatory apparatus that the federal government has.
100%. If you're taking a step back and you're looking at what the Trump administration has done vis-a-vis the regulatory state, you're talking about, radically shrinking regulatory agencies. Some agencies don't have enough regulators to sort of police their beat, so to speak. You have other instances like with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where the administration tried to essentially eliminate the entire agency. When a court stopped them from doing that, they basically have sidelined the agency. They have repealed some rules going through the full process that are very meaningful. So it's not to say that the administration hasn't done things to impede the efforts of regulators to sort of police the beat, but just this specific initiative to quickly, rip through the Code of Federal Regulations with a good cause exception has kind of flopped. And one reason why that's important is because things like shifting enforcement priorities and shrinking agencies, those are very, very impactful, but those are a little bit easier to reverse by future administrations, where this idea of repealing regulations, it's burdensome, it's costly, it takes a long time. So if you repeal a reg and a new administration comes in and wants to bring it back, they can't just snap their fingers and bring it back.